What did we discuss in last week?
H.
The letter H.
Household.
The household. What about the household? Go ahead and tell us, Roger. What about the household?
Yeah, I done told you everything I know.
That wasn't it. That's not what the lesson was. What did we learn last week? Okay. What you let in the household, that's one. What else? Anything else you can remember? Some of you write things down. What did you write down from last week? The family dynamics. Many are different. What else?
If you fight for your family, God will fight for you.
Okay.
The way the family goes, the way the church goes, the way the church goes.
Yep. Yep. We spoke about. Well, go ahead.
The devil can't destroy the church until he destroys the home.
Yeah, that's the direction it goes. Starts there, works its way on up the ladder. Anything else we covered last week?
Beware of distractions.
Beware of distractions. They can be dangerous. Fighting for our family is one of our big ones that we discussed last week. Now, tonight we're going to have a discussion. This is the last study class night before we celebrate Christmas next week. And in case anybody didn't know or wasn't keeping up with it, it is in a few days. You might want to check the calendar because it's going to be here quicker than it was last week. So you're really close to Christmas. But this is the last Bible study night that we have before Christmas. And we talked about last week about some things that we have to do to watch the household. And we have to do some things that keeps what comes into the house and how it affects the people in the house. Now, tonight, we're going to have a discussion on something before we look at a specific part of the Bible study we're going to do. But I have some questions to ask to lay the foundation to what we're going to look at tonight. And so the first one I've got, I'm going to ask you and let you answer first before I ask a more in-depth question. So, first question tonight is, what leads people to Jesus?
Holy Spirit, problem.
Drawing is drawing.
Okay. What leads people to Jesus?
Diversity.
Huh?
Diversity.
Okay, now we're getting on track. Let's take someone that has never been to church. They have never read a Bible. They know nothing other than what little they may see, hear, or run across on TV or something. What leads that person to Jesus? Huh?
Seeing the believers, the way they handle things.
See, Karen, that birthday card's done good. He's ready to talk to you. You notice that?
Loosen him right up.
That's it. So, he's on the right track. But I want you to really put a thought into this right here and looking at the world 2025 today, what leads people to Jesus?
People talking.
Let's take and I'll even take one more element out. They've never been to church.
Yeah.
They've never read a Bible. They know nothing. They've lived. Okay, the one I met this week is 32 or 3 years old. Has never been exposed to anything at all. Now, this person that I've discussed this with has their own ideas about religion. They've got their own ideas about things with the nature and how the world and earth came to form, but no knowledge of truth. So I'm going to put it that way. They've never read a Bible. They've never really looked into it. Nothing. What leads that person to Jesus? It's very quiet. Those very type of people, like the one that I ran across, are all around us all the time. You are exposed to those people around you all the time. All right, let me ask you another question. What's the most valuable tool that you own? Not monetary value of how much it's worth. What is the tool that is of most benefit, use, and value that you own?
Your Bible.
Huh?
Testimony.
Tool.
Your testimony.
No, a tool.
Your Bible.
It has to be something tangible, physical, that you use to do something with. What is something that is the most valuable thing you own that is a tool? Now, we got two carpenter builders over here, so they got to have something that's the most valuable thing to have. I don't know what that is, but what is the most valuable tool that you have benefited most from having to use? To use.
A screwdriver.
A pen, with everything, you got your estimates, you got.
You got to use it all?
measurements, you gotta do-
Yeah.
Measure tape.
Huh?
Measure tape.
A measuring tape. You use one? Can you read it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just making
Hey.
sure. Just making sure.
I got my butt busted if I didn't.
Okay.
What's that say? Hold it still.
So if you went to your area of something tore up at the house and you're trying to find tools, and you went to your toolbox or wherever you keep your tools in the house, you would be tempted to grab one that is of most use for you, the most valuable tool you have that has done better for whatever you work on than others. You know, some people say that some screwdrivers, some brands do better than others without stripping the screw, and some, have a grip on them better that's better to turn and get things worked loose to get it out. There's all these benefits of things, but most people has a tool that they will go for or get to priority over others, if I'm making sense here. So that brings us to the tool question of what is the most valuable tool that you have? Just tell me something that you use
My neighbor.
that is most benefit. Your neighbor. All right, that's a good one. He's even here to hear it.
A hammer.
A hammer.
Mine's a calculator.
Yours is a calculator. Yeah.
You
A
calculator.
lot of people answer this question and say their phone or their computer,
That's a big one.
because the ungodly mass of information they can obtain that assists them with anything they need. You can get YouTube certified to fix anything, can't you?
Yeah.
Huh? Except the navigator.
Yeah. we're
So,
good for that. We tried those.
You tried.
We paid them off the manual. Yes.
But what is the most valuable tool that you have? What is something that right now you would say that you would not want to go without because you use it all the time and it's good?
My drill.
Your wife. I heard that. Huh?
My pen.
Your pen? Yeah. I mean, some things have to be useful and a tool of benefit. And if we look at everything in life and benefits of what life tells us has to claim and show, we look in 2 Timothy where that were mentioned about the vessels of gold and silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor. But if a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified and meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every good work. One of the things that I can tell you, and I've always believed this, I've heard many discussions and conversations about people and what they do in their life that is what we'll call Christian work, even in the church. What people say they're called to do in the church and their job. God qualifies people for what he calls them to do. If God calls someone to do the things that he's called them to do, then he has set the qualifications for that job. But even then, and as the Bible even describes, that a vessel of honor sanctified and meet for the master's use and prepared unto every good work. We're going to talk about some instrument use here shortly and about some usefulness that we find when dealing with some specific questions. Now I'm going to ask you a harder one. I've gave you some easy ones already, but I want to ask you a harder question. This question is, who led you to the Lord? That's a question to answer.
My mom,
Your mom. Why?
she talked to us about the Lord.
Okay. Read the Bible?
Yeah,
You heard her pray?
yeah,
Sing songs?
yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Anybody else want to give an answer? Who led you to the Lord? Huh?
My aunt,
Your aunt. Why is that? What's the reason?
she didn't want me to die and go to hell.
Okay. What did she do that you would say led you?
She would come pick me up and take me to church.
Okay. Anything else? Who led you to the Lord? Very specific reason why I'm asking this question. Who?
My wife,
Huh?
my wife,
Your wife? What'd she do?
she got saved. She said, all you have to do is go to church with me.
Uh-huh.
And got to hear the word and
Uh-huh. Yeah.
got saved.
Yeah. Anybody else? Who led you to the Lord?
Spirit, Jesus. Spirit.
Mm-hmm. That's the most common answer.
Mhm.
But naturally speaking, on this earth, I'm asking as a person,
Yeah,
who led you to the Lord? There's reasons why in just a minute. Anybody else got an answer? Something they want to throw in?
Sunday school teachers,
Sunday school teachers. Okay.
pastor.
Pastor. Any other answers of who led you to the Lord? Let's look at let's start with a Bible story first. And I want you to think in your mind that all these people that you've just gave me an example, mom, wife, aunt, Sunday school teachers, pastor. These are all what we're going to call a human instrument in what has been part of your story or experience that led you to the Lord. Now, in John 11, very familiar passage, that Lazarus dies. Okay, let's just look at it from the simple view. Lazarus dies. And just imagine what happened with the people that was at the tomb of Lazarus. With their very own eyes, themselves, they saw the miracle. And you've read this story, you've heard this story preached, you've seen it taught a lot of times. But put yourself in the story, just like you were there. And imagine that you're one of the people there that is so upset and grieving that Lazarus has died. And you're one of the people that's there with Mary and Martha, and Jesus has now come on the day, and you know that Lazarus is dead. You know that he's in this tomb, and Martha's already reminded that he's starting to stink because it's already been 4 days, and you've heard the waiting and weeping, and then you hear not only the commands that Jesus gives in John 11, but then you also hear the prayer that Jesus gives. And suddenly, during the moment of your grieving and upset that Lazarus is dead, he comes walking out of the grave wearing what?
Grave clothes.
His grave clothes. They are wrapped around his body like a mummy, tight, because they wrapped a body very tight. Now you're baffled because you just literally seen the person that you know was dead just walk out of the grave. Now imagine yourself, Jesus is there, and he has called Lazarus out of the grave. But not only that, you are beyond comprehension of what you have just seen happen. And not only you, but everybody else that was there seen the same thing happen. As the Bible records, a dead man is brought back to life. What would your response be after you just seen that? I'll ask you that for a minute. What would your response be? If in 2025, somebody that we know died and we buried them, and the next thing we know while we're at the grave, the Lord comes and brings them out and they're walking. What would your response be to that? Huh? What would your response be? Think about it. Put yourself in their shoes. What would your response be?
Witchcraft.
Huh?
Witchcraft.
People be running off the hill like you've never seen before, calling CNN. They'd be videoing it live, Facebook Live. Now, if we go back to Bible days, the same, I don't want to call it fear, but the same beyond comprehensible doubt is the same problem. One of the things that we learn is that from this very instance, John 11:45 tells us in this very instant that many of the Jews that came to Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did what?
Believed on him.
Believed. Just because of the miracle, the people that were present and the people who heard the reports of Lazarus being raised from the dead. We could even say that Bethany, the town right next to where this happened, was probably a much different place because of what happened that day. Those people, think about this, after they seen the things that Jesus did, many believed. The words many believed, just from seeing what he did. I want you to pay attention to that because it's getting ready to come back out. Let's go back to the present. What people or experiences has shaped your faith? What people or experiences have shaped your faith?
Lois's
Huh?
heart transplant.
Lois's heart transplant.
3 days.
Yep. On the third day, she got a heart. On what day?
777.
Okay. What other people or experiences have shaped your faith? Whether you realize it or not, it goes on all through your life. Different things affect you. Different things, experiences, and people shape some of the things and what you believe. Any other examples somebody wants to give? If you ever wondered these things and even marvel at how God has called you to himself and then transformed you away from what you were to what you are now, I hope I can say that's what we're supposed to be doing, is leaving what we were, we have to, and to what we are now. Here's the next question of the battle. This is the big, deep one. Do you share your story with others that might come to believe in Jesus? Do you share it? That's the question. Do you share it?
Every time we went somewhere to sing, I heard that. God bless.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to see why I'm asking these questions in just a moment. Think about the fact of how often do you hear anybody in your surroundings, in your environment, in a week, 1 week, 7 to 7 days, Sunday to Sunday, how many people that you come across, encounter, or deal with in any type of communication and contact that you hear them say anything about their story? Anything.
Not many.
Huh? How many times in a week have you, this week, from last Friday to today, how many times have you heard anybody tell their story? How many times have you heard it in 1 week? Once? One time? Anybody else know? How many times in 1 week, Friday to this Friday, have you heard anybody share their story, their testimony, their experience?
Not necessarily testimony, but talked about other stuff.
What's
No,
that?
I guess I could say testimony because testimony is things that's brought you through things.
That's still part of their story.
Multiple times.
Yeah. It's a wide varying number when people are asked about this. It's a very wide varying number. Then the next one comes not only the sharing your story, but what about inviting others to come to church so they may hear the word and see the mighty work in their midst? That's the next question. How many in 1 week, I'm going to put this on the spot, from Friday to today, last Friday to today, how many have you invited? Huh? Okay. Do you know it's funny to me that people are somewhat reserved about who they invite and who they don't? That's real. That's honest to God truth. People are reserved about who they're willing to invite to church and others who they're hesitant about inviting to church. Why that is various reasons, but it does exist. It really goes on. If we know, now I want you to think about this from this logical standpoint. We know that right now, as we sit here tonight, that miracles are still being performed today. Everybody believe that? And lives right now are still being changed. And there are still people that are coming to know who Jesus is and being saved. Those all are coming from instruments of use. God using his instruments, human instruments, that plays a very vital role in how people get to Jesus. There was a massive train wreck, a passenger train wreck. Many people was hurt, and a doctor was coming by, and he stopped to get out to help. And when he got out, he looked down at a person that was partially trapped between a fallen rail carriage and the rail. And his answer, and he cried out to the person and said, "If only I had my instruments with me." See, there's no worse statement to have than the fact that you know how to tell your story, and you know how to invite people to the Lord, lead people to the Lord. Let's put it that way. But the lack of use of the instruments that we find. Ezekiel was one of the ones that we know in the Bible that was used as an instrument, where that he called him about that they were wanting to build up the wall, if I remember it correctly. And he had Ezekiel to stand in the gap. And what did he tell him? What did he tell his job? Anybody remember that part of the Bible? Stand in the gap while they built the wall. Stand in the gap. Anybody remember that part? He says that I would like to find it so that none would destroy it, but he found what? None. He didn't find any. And then we look at when God has a job to do, he's always choosing people and individuals to do his work. He's always looking for individuals that's willing to do work. And if we look at Bible examples tonight of human instruments, this is just a few easy examples. He made Ezekiel a watchman of the house of Israel and said that you're to warn them. When I tell you, you're to warn them, and if you don't, whose blood is it going to be on?
Yeah.
Yours. He knew God's way. Elijah stood in the gap to pray. Aaron and Hur stood in the gap to help. The Gideon stood in the gap to fight. And then Andrew even stood in the gap to introduce others to Christ. One of the things about Elijah was that he prayed earnestly that it would not what?
Rain,
Rain. And it didn't rain for how long?
3.5 years.
Yeah. And then he turned around and prayed that it rained. And what happened?
It rained.
It rained, and they had crops, right? So there is an instrument used in the space. God uses people in the space. Now, thinking of that tonight for what we're looking at for study, I do want to ask you one more question. Does anybody know what Shekinah glory is? Shekinah glory, yeah. What does this mean? Give us a for English version of meaning. What is it? Yep. Yep. Angelic presence, or a meaning of divine presence, meaning the dwelling of God, presence of God. There's a lot of various things, but examples, biblical examples, will be when he led the children of Israel with a pillar of fire or a cloud. Other things that represented the presence or dwelling of God. And in the Hebrew root word, it represents the nearness of God or to dwell, the presence and dwelling. And we're going to look at that tonight for our study as we've been looking at all the things of who led you to Jesus. What did they do and why? What are you doing now to lead? And we go into a part of the Christmas story. And the Bible records in Matthew that when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Then Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, Go and search diligently for the young child, and when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. We know, as this part of being in part of the Christmas story, that Jesus was born in Bethlehem. And we know that by historical biblical study, we know that Bethlehem and Jerusalem is about a 5-mile distance between each other. Basically, almost like going from here to Middlesboro. We got about a 5-mile stretch between the two locations. Herod's interest draws because he's got wind of a star that has appeared telling where Jesus is. And when the wise men comes in, is where he wants them to go find Jesus and then come back and tell him where he's at so that he can come to worship him. What was Herod's real intent?
Wanted to kill him.
He wanted to kill him. As a matter of fact, as we look at some things in studies, you will find later on that Herod did something to eliminate the possibility of Jesus being alive. What did he do?
Killed all the boys.
Under the age of 2. All the boys under the age of 2, Herod recordingly killed to eliminate this chance of him being alive, because already the documentation of that all the Jews had heard about it and was troubled, all of Jerusalem. So he rounds them up and he says, Go find him. Go find him. Now I want you to see this for just a moment. Go find him. So here we have a part of where the wise men, how many were there?
Don't know.
You're supposed to say 3, Roger, because all the Christmas plays have 3 wise
They
men.
had 3 gifts.
Oh, just 3 gifts. But they always just have 3
I
kings
know, but
bringing 3
we don't know
gifts.
how many
The
there were.
song says we 3 kings.
Yeah.
I'm just asking the questions here. How many wise men were there? You're supposed to say
Well,
3.
We don't
You're the
know.
one in the play. Anyway, so We don't know. That's the first thing I want you to think about. The next thing is that I really picked up on in Matthew chapter 2. When I was looking at this recently, there was a few things I picked up real quick. And one of the things that I found was that, let me find it right quick so I can tell you. One of the things that's mentioned in the Bible, and they even mentioned it there of in verse 10. Yeah. One of the things that's mentioned is that they sing the star, they rejoiced exceeding great joy. Verse 11 says, and when they were coming to the house. Well, that's interesting because Jesus wasn't born in a house. You ever catch that?
Yeah.
Jesus was not born in a house. But the Bible says in Matthew chapter 2, verse 11, and when they were come into the house, then it says they saw the young child, not the baby, the young child with Mary, his mother. So, if Herod wiped out all the children under the age of 2, Jesus had to be over that age to not be one that was killed.
He already escaped into Egypt.
There you go. Now we're getting the escape. Yes, we're getting the escape coming into the picture. And they come into the house. There's a timetable here that we see that the wise men have a very distinct part in one specific thing. One of the things is that when stars appear in the sky, what direction do they go? Anybody know? Most stars, all generic astronomy, we're going to call it, travel the same path as the sun, east to west. That's where they go, east to west. Well, the strange part of this star that's recorded, they departed, and lo, the star, which they saw in the east. The interesting part was where they were at to go to Bethlehem would go south. It was not east to west. This star went south. Another interesting recording about this star and why that I brought up the Shekinah glory is because this star, a lot of people in their mind, and I just want to ask you this question. What was the star?
Holy Spirit.
Huh?
Holy Spirit.
Okay. Anybody else got an answer? What was the star?
North Star.
I've heard that before. The North Star. What was the star? Anybody else got any answer for that? The star, which they saw in the east. What was the star? First of all, the wise men were well versed in what? Astronomy. They were well versed in the stars. So to have a star shining very bright and going before you, it's done been prophesied, but now it's going before you to take you where Jesus lay. That's not normal astronomy. There is no astrology teaching these wise men of the signs and the stars that any star does this whatsoever. One of the things that is interesting when I thought about this was the fact that that Shekinah glory relates back to this very representation. Same as the children who was led out of bondage was led by a pillar of fire and a cloud. Those two things. Now we have another representation God places of leading them to Jesus. How these people were led to Jesus. Do you know what determines how bright a star is? I can't hear you. Why are you looking at Chris for?
You're laughing at me over here.
The top of the star.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
How far away it is.
Okay.
It's been burned out.
Okay. What else?
How close it is.
Okay. There's something.
How much light hits it?
Thank you.
He's
See-
laughing at me because he's a star guy.
Well, keep it down. We need him. He's a wise man. So think about this for a moment. We got some people that really know about astronomy looking at something that is not matching the definition of a star, that is shining. It is also moving in a very direct direction to take them to Jesus. Not only has God performed another miracle of supernatural powers to create this star, as the Bible records, or as the presence of God dwelling, but it also can go in a whole nother direction than normal solar system operates, we'll call it, and it's going south. And they're following a star that is leading them south. Do you know that a star's main instance of determining how bright that one is, there's other factors that do lead to it, but one of the biggest things that also plays a role into how bright a star is how close to the sun that it's located. Now, we're going to go back to leading these wise men to Jesus. Do you know that the Bible says that you are to let your light so shine before who? Men. Who was God shining the star to? Men. And the closer you are to the SON, the brighter your light shines to direct people in how to find Him. You think about the fact of how you found the Lord, and there is somebody in the story that was an instrument used by God in your story of who led you to Jesus. If it's a family member that picked you up and took you to church every Sunday, I've heard people say it was so-and-so that drove the church bus and he picked us up every Sunday morning. He'd come by and pick us up on the church bus. All these people that were that led us to Jesus. Same representation. The brighter, the closer that you are to the SON, the brighter your light is to shine. Now, let's keep going. There's a very important thing here that I got to looking at that is actually recorded right here in this verse. Not only do we have a star shining bright, so they can see the way to Jesus, number one. The next one that comes up is then when it gets to where Jesus is, the Bible says that when it came, it stood over. It stopped where the child was. When it got to where Jesus was at, the Bible records the star came and stood over where he was. Let me ask you a question. When you get introduced to Jesus, when you come to the realization that you aren't going to heaven, you aren't saved, you don't have what it takes to go to heaven, is there not a line drawn right there? Everything stops right there at Jesus. It stops right there. Because now you're at a crossroads. You have to choose to accept and believe, or you choose to reject him. The star came and stood over where Jesus. It did not take them past the manger or where the child was. It did not take them away from Jesus. But when what led them to the Lord got there, it stopped and it stood. You think about the fact of what our job is. What is your job in 2025 as a Christian?
You're going to witness testimony, what you want to call it,
Okay.
point others to the Lord.
Okay. We are commanded to let our lights shine so that they may what?
See your good work.
See your good work. Shine the light. The light that leads them straight to what? The feet of Jesus. Right to the feet of Jesus. God instituted the very plan. Do you know this is the only first record of a star in the Bible is in the New Testament? It's about 20-some times that it's recorded in the New Testament, the word star. But this is the first one. Also, David and others in the Bible, John, records the Lord as the what? The bright and morning star. There's the word bright again. There's other biblical recordings about the day star. And in Revelation talking about him. All of these star representations we find goes back to light. The light that shines. Well, our light that shines is directly a reflection of how close we are to the SON.
Because the star has no light of its own.
It has no light of its own. Now you're on it. Now we're getting somewhere. That star has no light of its own. Without God, you are what?
Dead.
Without God, nothing is possible. Is that not right? The Bible says that with God, all things are possible. But without Him, there's no way to get to heaven. There's no way to get there, period. There's no other way. We know this. But you think about the fact that how you got to Jesus, somebody had a part, an instrument part, in leading you there. You may not even realize that inviting someone to church with no means or intents of thinking you'll ever see them, and you may not. But if that is enough of an influence to spark their interest because they've seen a real change in them from who they are or was to who they are today, and they go to church somewhere, guess what you were part of? You were one of the instruments used shining the light. And you think about that a lot in life. And we go through life with a lot of things that we encounter. But that light shone to those wise men. We don't know how long it took them to get there. We don't know how long that it took them to get from where they were at to where Jesus was. But we do know one thing: the star didn't leave. It did not disappear. It did not wander off. And it recordedly shone the path, went before them until it came and stood over. Every time that you're led to Jesus, and this is the way it comes to me when I study this, every time that we are brought back to the feet of Jesus with whatever we're going through in life, that's where it stops. Right there. See, you're brought to the answer. You are brought to the solution. You are brought to the hope, the truth, the way, and the life. Now it's, which way will you choose? Every single time that there is an influence or instrument of use, you are brought right back to that point. Everything in the Bible is going to lead you straight back. You know, I read something the other day that was really good. I got to find it for Robert. But it's about Revelation and how many people, it scores, how many people take all that to be foretelling and what's going to happen in the end times and all this other future stuff. And it broke it down to the fact that 90% of Revelation is nothing but a representation to point to Jesus. Every bit of it is to point back, right back to Him. We know that the Bible also records in this part of the Christmas story that when the baby was born and they came to worship Him, it's also said that that brought something to the earth. What did it bring? The angel said it. What else said it? What did the birth of Jesus bring? Peace. Good tidings of great joy. Peace and goodwill toward men. Huh. See what you're brought to when the light is shown and takes you and leads you to Jesus. You see that, and the Bible even records, Paul even said it, that, you know, you can read, you can study, you can do all the things, but how can you know anything without seeing demonstration? People representing what did God show while He was here on the earth? What light did He shine while He walked this earth over 30 years? Father's light. And He showed it by doing what? He showed love, compassion, patience, mercy, miracles. Fed the 5,000 because they didn't have nowhere to eat. Everybody closed up. They come out in the country. There's nowhere to eat. He fed them. He healed the sick, blind to see, lame to walk, dumb to talk. All these things He did. He showed it. He showed the light of the truth in the gospel to the very people by manifestation. How do we shine a light in 2025, moving to 2026 now, but how do we shine a light? How do we do that? I will say that we've got a lot of Christians, and that globally covers a lot of them. You know where their light is shining? Where, Roger? Go ahead and tell me. Where's their light shining?
Under a bushel.
Under the bushel. They're not being led to Jesus. People's not being led to Jesus. People will not open their mouth about church. People will not say a word about church. They'll stay silent on the matter. A lot of people will not tell their testimony or anything about what happened when they got saved. How will anybody ever know that it has transforming power? How will anybody ever know that what you have is real if they go to their deathbed never seen it, never heard about it? The star in your life, and can be many different things in people in life that do things, but the star in your life, the very thing that God placed to bring the wise men right to the feet of Jesus, someone was the light of your life, as we'll call it, the star of your life, that was part of leading you to the Lord. And you can see in through your lives how many people have played that part. Does anybody in the room know their zodiac sign?
Yep.
Yeah.
Huh? You know your zodiac sign? Anybody know? Okay. Everybody know it? Huh?
Don't mean nothing, but I know it.
Yeah?
When I was young, we used to look it up in the newspaper. It would say it in the newspaper.
Okay. Now that you've told me your zodiac sign, tell me the 12 tribes of Israel. Many Americans cannot even begin to name the 12 tribes of Israel, but they can tell you whether they're a Leo or what's that, Pisces or whatever it is, Pisces, something like that. There you go. Or an Aquarius. Is that one of them?
Yeah.
Sagittarius.
They know all of that. Astrology.
Taurus.
There you go. The Taurus. That's one of them. They know all those of what they are, which one they fall in by the month. They can tell you that without a hitch about the astronomy relation. But they can't tell you or begin to name the 12 tribes of Israel. And just for fun, I put that up there so you could see the 12 zodiac signs that the Reader's Digest always throws out there for you that you get to see. People know this. And then people like Chris Mabe studies the stars. He's trying to find the lottery numbers up in the sky. That's what he's trying to see, the formation lineup up there, what actually did. No, just seriously though, people know this. They know their zodiac sign. But you think about the fact of how this extraordinary story came of wise men traveling from the east, a star guiding their way. And then let me ask one more question. I did think of the irony of this. Why do we give everybody else presents on Jesus' birthday? That'd be like having Tony's birthday, but we give everybody else a gift. Why do we do that? Everybody says this is a celebration of the birth of Jesus.
He gave everyone a gift that day,
Okay?
or the day when he was, like I said, his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
A lot of Bible references start speaking of Christmas being a demonstration of the gift of giving. That's one thing we do as representation of Christmas is the gift of giving. But we find that all of this relation, even still today, seems odd. Out of all the people that read a horoscope, they try to deeply study that star. But that star, God's purpose, when He put that out there to shine a bright light, was a direct reflection from God Himself onto what? His Son. And if we are going to lead anybody to the Lord, if we are going to be an influence and part of getting anybody in the church, our reflection is directly influenced by how close we are to the S-O-N. The S-O-N. All through life, people go down through and see that story, and they know it so well. You know, it's interesting that a lot of Christmas plays, there's very little mention about the star. You'll have all these things in Christmas plays that they'll mention seeing the stars, and in comes the wise man and the kings and the shepherds and the angels, but there's not much said about the star. But God purposefully manifested that and placed that, and it stayed. Listen, it stayed until the people that it was leading was brought directly to Jesus. There are people in all of our lives tonight that you and I could give the claim to being a star that helped influence or be part of what led you to Jesus. Now, this person I was talking about at the beginning tonight that has never read the Bible, never studied anything related to the Bible, knows nothing about church, never raised in church. You think about what an influence you've got on him with just what your human mind and what you've learned in your years of salvation and living for God, what you have contained right there, that you have to be an instrument and a tool to the people that are not in church, that are lost, the family that are lost. God puts you in a path before these people to be an instrument or a vessel, as mentioned, of use, meet for the master's use, as a matter of fact, to be the very workings and showings of shining the light before others, so that they may come to see about what this is all about. Some people get saved based out of, a lot of people say they get saved out of different circumstances. Some say curiosity brought them to church. Some say that they seen something happen in somebody else's life that made them choose to want to come and see what it was about. There are many examples of people talking about that, and we've got it right here in the church, where a child gets saved, and then what happens? Mom, dad, somebody else is now coming through the door, joining, getting saved, or getting in church. See, God uses every bit of that as an instrument to shine the light just before them. But you look at everything God does to use these people when they come into church, and then you see their families start coming to church, or different people come to church. God uses them as an instrument to shine the light to the way, but it's all back directly to Him. Every bit of it is to get right back to the feet of Jesus. That's where we all lay it back down at. That's the only way in the Christmas season tonight that you find the tidings or joy, peace, and goodwill that has come to the earth. God sent, wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger tonight. And we always look at that formulated story that we know so well. Everybody thinks this happened in one night. From dusk to dawn, as I call it. This all happened in dusk to dawn timeline. And we create that in a Christmas play in one night. Bam! This all happened. But now seeing and looking and studying and realizing how long it could have taken for the light to have brought some to Jesus, it's no question in me why it takes a while for others to come to the Lord. And the circumstances in this world we have to go through to even work and witness to people, and what effort it was that we get into. But if you ever study and look down, you'll find all these details in lining of a gift that was brought to the earth and given. And the only way these people were ever going to find him, they didn't have cell phones, they didn't have GPS, they couldn't put an address in their phone and it'd take them straight to where he was. The only way they were going to get to the Lord, to find the baby Jesus and get to him to worship, was that the light be shown before them, be shown in a direction that they could follow. And when it got to the feet of Jesus, it drawed a line. Every time that you and I get brought to a circumstance in our life, or a crossroads, or a problem or situation, and whatever's preached, whatever's taught, whatever you read in the Bible and study, every time that it shines the light on the truth of whatever it is, brings you right back to the feet of Jesus, and it stops. Every time it stops right there. And then you're at the crossroads. The line is now drawn every time. The light is shone on the truth to us in our lives. And when we get right to where the Lord's at, it don't keep following. There's nothing else to follow. It stops right there every single time. Anybody else got anything tonight?
God's voice audibly only came to the few that night. Through his angels to the shepherds.
Yeah.
That star, God's voice to all nations. And Peter said it best. And when he began to write in For he received from God the Father honor and glory. When there came such a voice to him from the excellent glory, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. This voice which came from heaven we heard, when we were with him in the Holy Mount. We have also a more sure word of prophecy, whereunto ye do well. Take heed, as unto the light that shineth in a dark place. That's what happened that night. Dark world.
Mm-hmm.
As unto a light that shineth in a dark place, until the day dawn, and the day star, the rising of hearts. On this verse, no prophecy of the scripture is of any private interpretation. For the prophecy came not in old time by the will of man, but by holy men of God, spake as they were moved by the Holy Ghost. So Peter explained the star very well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the voice of God.
Yep.
And I'm thankful that day star rose in my heart one morning when I was a little boy.
The was you reading in 2 Peter chapter 1? Was you 2 Peter chapter 1? That's one of the. Is that the only? I'm trying to remember if that's the one of the only mentions or representations of the day star. If I think that's it in the Bible. I don't remember if it's in there anywhere else. Yeah. The light so shined bright enough for these to follow daytime, nighttime, anytime, all the time, all the time. And God formed it and put it there to lead them straight to the Messiah, Emmanuel. Now, if we look at it in our own lives and world, there's stars in our life that God has used as instruments to shine light on the way. No matter how many or what that was, there are stars in your life. I've heard people say that their spouse is the light of their life. I've heard that in different things, people saying the light of their life. Courtney's not agreeing with that, but they say that the light. But you know, the light of life is the one that led you to Jesus, led you to become of knowing of who he was, put you in the path, the footsteps of on the way to meeting this person named Jesus. And many times that star, I'm just me personal opinion, I think a lot of times that it's not really emphasized enough. We put a lot into the kings, wise men, angels, shepherds, the manger, all the animals there, and that all has its own place. But if God didn't guide them some way to get to the baby, they would never have found it, nowhere near like they did. If God did not lead and give them a way to have the light shown before them, to take them straight to the Lord, this story would not have went the same as what happened that night in that little town. And now we see how much that life comes. They swaddled him in clothes. The Bible says they had him swaddled in clothes. Why do we swaddle a baby? Why do we do that? Why do we swaddle a baby? Binding them. That's the whole reason for it, is it inhibits similarities to the womb. It binds the baby tight. Yeah. And they like that. They're bound tight. But you know, that's also a symbol of the world's way of trying to go ahead and bind into bondage. Put the baby Jesus, already bind him up and hold him from what the prophecies done said is to come and will come. Anybody else got anything tonight?
That brought a thought to my mind. The first time I ever heard of the Bible was Mom and Dad was all the time talking. They'd say the good book says this and the good book says that, and we was wondering what's the good book. What is the good book? They'd say, they didn't say the Bible, they'd say the good book.
Yeah, every bit of it. Anybody else got anything tonight? Anybody? Any prayer requests?